Hi, everybody. I'm Reverend Therese Lee, and this is Unity Spiritual Center, Hilton Head Island, South Carolina. Thanks for joining us. Whatever day it is, whatever time it is, we're grateful that you're here, that you've brought your consciousness and your willingness. Say with me, Amen. So let's start for a moment just thinking about what is it that we would like for ourselves to know. What is the question that we ask ourselves? The one I ask every day is, what is mine to do today to be spirit expressing in the world? So come up with a question. I say that even before I get out of my bed to get myself ready to go. So let's start in prayer, as we always do in Unity. And we move from the head to the heart space, and we breathe. We breathe in, and we exhale. Let's do it again. Breathing in and exhaling. And this allows us then to move from the busyness of our mind to the sacredness and the stillness within our heart. Would it be okay if there was more peace in your world? Well, guess what? I'm here to tell you, you get to make that happen. I get to make it happen. We get to make it happen. So we're grateful that you're with us. As you join, go ahead and write in the box where you're from. And if you have a prayer request, who you are, of course, where you're from, if you have a prayer request or a prayer intention, and we'll add you to our lists. If you would like to get our e-news, of course, let us know that as well. One goes out once a week. So there's a scripture in Job that says, it's in chapter 33, verse 4, the Spirit of God made us, and the breath of God gives us life. So think about that. We breathe, you and I, without even thinking about breathing. We just breathe. We just breathe. And in the Hebrew tradition, what we know is when they spell the word Yahweh, they leave out all of the vowels. And when they then say the word Yahweh, they're really without vowels. It's breathing Yahweh. Breathing in, Yah. Breathing out, breathing in and breathing out, saying the breath of God. So what I love about understanding different traditions, just the very breaths that we breathe is praising God. Praising God. So we know this today, that spring's coming, right? Or fall may be coming, right? Or whatever season that is coming into our lives. We know that they come and they go. So winter follows fall, spring follows winter, summer follows spring. So regardless of what time of year it is, what we know is that there's always a mystery, isn't there? Whether it's flowers blooming or trees having their leaves die and leave them. It's a perpetual unfolding. If we relate to, see all my beautiful plants, if we relate to nature as part of transformation, to visibly see what transformation looks like, then we can understand it better for ourselves. I want to tell you the story about a few of the other ways of looking at transformation. So think about the frog and where it got its beginnings. We know it begins as a little egg, and then in the fullness of time, the little egg will burst forth into a tadpole, which appears when you're looking into a pond like a little fish, right, swimming around. The wondrous part of this mystery of life is that soon enough, that little tadpole will actually grow legs in its own fullness of time and will walk upon the earth and swim in the ocean. Who would have thunk it, right? The same mystery of transformation unfolds in the butterfly. The butterfly begins as an egg. It's the creation story, isn't it? And then the little butterfly doesn't come out yet. No. So the egg turns into a little wiggly thing full of fur and lots of legs. It's called a caterpillar. And when it feels a little inner push in its life, the caterpillar gets still and creates a chrysalis around itself. And after time, and a bit in the goo, the chrysalis then allows for itself to present, so to speak, a winged creature that you and I call a butterfly. Are you breathing with me? Beautiful examples of transformation. So what about your transformation? What about my transformation? Well, I'm here to say it's just as amazing and just as beautiful. Are you willing? Are you willing? Sometimes I've heard people say, maybe you've said it, I'm just a human being. Okay, first of all, we're not just anything. And what we know is the more time in a spiritual community like ours, more time in spiritual introspection and reflection and study, we learn, guess what? I'm not just a child of God. I'm not just a human being. Excuse me. Oh, I get so excited on Sunday morning. I'm not just a human being. I am a child of God. Say it with me. I am a child of God. When we use the word child, what comes to my mind is innocence, beginner's mind, as Buddha would say. And I hope every day you have that childlike, excitement to see what's happening in the world. What is mine to do as an expression of God in the world? So once we can move from the limited thinking of, I'm just a human being, to, I'm a child of God, then we see transformation happening. We can feel it in our bodies, certainly in our minds, our attitudes, the way we present ourselves, right? So I know in my inner self, the Therese within me, that the destiny of the little tadpole is to become a frog, that the destiny of the caterpillar is to become a butterfly. And I know for myself and for you that the destiny of me as a child of God is to become an expression of God, a spiritual being having a human experience. And it was the Jesuit priest Teilhard de Chardin who coined this phrase, so to speak. Spiritual 100%, human 100%, coexisting, right? So this is what you and I get to understand about ourselves. We get to embrace ourselves. And when we see the human part of us, which shows up as ego and attitude and rolling the eyes and whatever else might come with that, when we see this, then we can go, wait a minute, that's not the truth of me. I am Christ-like. I have the same job description that Jesus had. Say it with me. I am Christ-like, which means we get to be about God's business. And we get to being about God's business once we've spent time in our own quiet, our own stillness, so we can hear the ever gentle whispers helping us understand. In Unity, we use Jesus as one of our way showers, people we try to emulate, right? Because Jesus was a person. Yes. So breathe with me. Very human, very divine. As my father would say, he wrestled with that every day of life. And then he came to the point in his life where he was aware that he was a child of God and aimed every day, every moment in true consciousness to be incorporating within us this human and the divine. And what we're able to then see is through the teachings that you and I get to do the same thing. In the tapestry of our life, the threads are woven from our humanity and our divinity. That's why it's beautiful. That's why it's colorful. That's why you matter. That's why I matter. So as we walk through the seasons of life, you know, when we spend time with ourselves, I hope you spend a lot of time with yourself. What's going to happen is our soul, our consciousness, is going to invite us to again leave behind the old ways of thinking, the old ways of speaking, the old ways of judging, of living, and step into what Spirit is pushing us for, right? Pulling us upward, forward, for. Wooing us, so to speak. I think now more than ever we are being pulled by Spirit into this stage of life where we combine ourselves as human and divine. No stinking thinking. We honor that. My intention every day is to live for my divinity. And you know what? Truthfully, my humanity gets in the way. I got stopped at a stoplight when I wanted to go through the green. Person in front of me at whatever store has forgotten how to count in the 10 or less line. Someone cuts you off on the highway, right? Whatever it is, now's the time for us to embrace both human and divine. No separation. And yet you might say, well, Reverend Therese, you don't know. I'm having a baffling crisis. You're right, I don't know. And I honor the crisis that you are in, if that's so. And I'm going to ask you to look at it maybe differently. What am I supposed to learn from this situation I'm in? What am I supposed to know from that phone call I just received? What is this doctor's diagnosis trying to tell me? When we what ourselves, W-H-A-T, we empower ourselves to stand a little bit stronger, shoulders back, and to ask the question, is there more I need to understand? And then be real with yourself. I'm a little afraid. Okay. I'm a little nervous. Okay. Be all of those things. Honor your emotions. They allow you to be more authentic, more real. And then ask the questions, the deep questions of God. Then we listen for the answers. They're going to nudge us into yet transforming what could have been a crisis or chaos, quote unquote, into something that serves us. Now, is it always easy? Nope, it's not. So get centered again and breathe in and breathe out and continue asking the questions. One of my favorite authors is Sue Monk Kidd. And my favorite book of all times now, since the 80s, When the Heart Waits. And the author talks about the times that she faced questions in her life. It's when I began saying, I'm going to live as the question. And Albert Einstein helped me clarify, wait, it's a holy question. So I'm going to share with you some of what she wrote in this fabulous book. It's impossible to be impossible, right? Because the very word says, I'm possible. So her question is it possible that I am being summoned from some deep place within me, some holy place within me? Am I being asked to enter a new passage in my spiritual life? Yet again, the journey from false self to true self. Am I being asked to dismantle old masks, old patterns, and unfold a deeper, more authentic self? The one God created me to be? Question mark. Am I being compelled, Monk asks, to disturb my inner universe in quest of the undiscovered being who clamors from within me? I love these questions. I love them. What are you clamoring for? It's like it gives us permission to step out of any boxes, any labels that we might have in our minds about ourselves. Stepping into, growing into, transforming yet again into our magnificent spiritual self. So I'm wondering, what are your questions? So I encourage you to think about your questions. And even if you're not in a mighty crisis, it's all right. Questions are good every day. Where's your life going? What's been happening? Ask questions that come to you that you would like clarity for. And even when the answers don't come instantly, it's all right. Questioning is an important part of our spiritual growth, yours and mine. Are you breathing? Are you willing? I hope so. I hope so. I hope so. So we ask questions and then we search, right? We find that our bottom line, which is such a business word for me when I used to be in sales and marketing and publishing. So the bottom line is us, you and me, committing to becoming a new, evolved, better version of ourselves. We can all be better versions of ourselves. It doesn't mean that what we are now is wrong. Everybody can use a little influx of more truth. Yes? In our opinions of ourselves, in the way we express God out into the world. So when the caterpillar forms the chrysalis that becomes a cocoon, it becomes over time inside gooey, which I mentioned before. It's been said by science that it's a yellow gold liquid. Wow. Think about it. Sitting in the goo isn't a bad thing. Because what happens in the goo of the cocoon that the caterpillar is now in, the cells configurate in a new and a magnificent way to then allow the butterfly to emerge. It's a beautiful process if you've never seen one. There's plenty on YouTube, and I have seen them in person, and I'm always continuously amazed. So when you and I are in a crisis of any kind, and in a crisis of spirit, right? When we question, like, what? Why did that happen? That may slip out of your mouth. Switch it to, Now that that's happened, what am I supposed to do? Right? So we're moving every time we question. A stage of from one evolution stage to another one. From one stage of growth to another one. Always and always allowing ourselves some waiting time when we become aware that we are evolving. That a shift, a holy shift, careful how you hear that, is happening. And yet we know, don't we, that we humans don't like to wait. We don't like it. We want it to happen now or sooner. Because I remember when I used to remember that if I was doing nothing, I was wasting time. I'm so grateful that I don't think that every day anymore. Waiting doesn't mean you're doing time. You're doing nothing and wasting time, rather. It means instead, from this perspective, that the waiting is a deep introspection that we're doing. It's where we do our spiritual work. It's why quiet is necessary. And then what happens as we listen? The guidance starts to come. Spirit speaking, God directing. And we breathe. And we breathe. There's internal voices that pull us and push us. There's external voices that pull us and push us, right? So I'm asking you to let those go, the ones that are shaking you up, and get to the quiet voice within that encourages us to keep growing, to keep evolving. So our destiny is to go beyond just the human part of us, to embrace spiritual insights when they come, to embrace the divinity that each of us is, to allow the becoming, to become spiritually strong, to allow ourselves to be Christ-like, Spirit-led. Then there has to be time in between for the holiness to do its work within us. It's a beautiful process. So on the days when there's conflict or stress, know that there's a different way of being. Peaceful, inspired by the Spirit that leads us, that is us, that presents as us. So take a moment, close your outer eyes, and acknowledge to yourself, I am more than my eyes can see. I am more than my eyes can see. We acknowledge in this moment that we are one with God, that the Spirit of all that is great and good is within us. We embrace our divine essence. And we breathe and we exhale. And we do it again. We breathe and we exhale. And we allow. We allow our divinity. We remember that the very word alone means all one, A-L-O-N-E. So we can never be alone, you and I. We are always one in spirit and connected. The Holy Spirit as close as our breath, and the God of our understanding as close as our heartbeat. So let's be quiet together in this awareness as we honor our divinity. And as we bring our attention back to this time and this space and these sacred and holy grounds we call Unity Spiritual Center, Hilton Head Island, we say thank you. Thank you for being with us. And as you're so moved and practice your generosity, we are grateful. Our P.O. Box is 1392, Bluffton, South Carolina, 29910. Or on our website at www.unityofhiltonhead.org. There's a practice generosity button. All of the talks are archived as well. And any new events will be happening will be on the website. So our closing prayer for today is, we usually say the prayer for protection, and I'm going to say this. Peace be still and know that I am God. And we breathe. Peace be still and know. Breathe. Peace be still. Breathe. Peace. And so it is. Thanks for being with us. Reverend Therese signing off, Unity Spiritual Center, Hilton Head Island, South Carolina. Thank you. See you next week.